Hello, friends of Nian Tri and Huyan Hawk. Today, we continue with the next part of the story, the backing of the demonic sect's holy maiden. This story follows the transformation of the relationship between Lu Chen and Mo Bingyao, from a partnership built on mutual benefits to a sincere and genuine love. Chapter 3. The female lead turns back, the backing reveals himself. Part 1. When the gaze no longer avoids. Mo Bingyao's public acknowledgement of Lu Chen's position did not create a great wave immediately. But it made the surface of the water so tense that even a small stone would be enough to break it. In the cultivation world, people were more accustomed to killing in silence than facing their own choices. So when the demonic sect stopped hiding, when the one behind the scenes was given a name and a place, the righteous path was forced to look directly at him, whether they wanted to or not. Lan Ruoxue received the news in the morning, just as the first sunlight fell upon the stone steps outside her hall. She read it very slowly, word by word. Her face remained calm, but at some point, her sleeve had already tightened in her hand. Mo Bingyao's backing, she read silently, the corner of her lips curving into a very thin smile. So he has finally agreed to step forward. The person standing beside her asked cautiously, "Junior sister, what do you think?" Lan Ruoxue raised her head. Her gaze was still as clear as ever, and her voice was gentle. "I think he has chosen a more difficult way to die." The words sounded like pity. But only those who truly understood her would realize that this was a confirmation of her target. Not long after, Xiao Feng was summoned. He stood before her, looking at that familiar face, yet feeling an uncomfortable sense of distance. "You have heard?" Lan Ruoxue asked. "I have," Xiao Feng replied. "What do you think?" This time, her gaze did not avoid his. Xiao Feng was silent for a moment before saying, "The demonic sect is provoking us." Lan Ruoxue smiled. "Then according to you, what should I do?" Xiao Feng clenched his hand. "Do not let them get what they want." Lan Ruoxue's smile deepened slightly. "Then," she said, "we must meet him." Back in the demonic sect, Lu Chen was not surprised when he received word that the righteous path wanted to exchange words. He merely put down his brush and said to Linger, "It has finally come." Linger frowned. "You know it is a trap." "I know," Lu Chen replied, "but this is a trap I must step into." "Why?" "Because if I avoid it," he said slowly, "she will strike at Mo Bingyao. But if I face her, she will choose to strike at me." Linger froze. Lu Chen looked at her. "This is exactly why I stepped forward." Mo Bingyao did not stop him. When Lu Chen came to the rear hall to report the matter, she only asked one question. "Are you certain?" "Yes." "If it is a battle of words?" "I will not lose." "If it is a battle of life and death?" "I will not die meaninglessly." Mo Bingyao looked at him for a long time before saying, "Go, but remember, you do not represent the demonic sect. You represent my choice." Lu Chen lowered his head. "I understand." The meeting was set in a neutral region, belonging neither to the righteous path nor to the territory of the demonic sect. It was an open stretch of land between two mountain ranges, where the wind blew at an angle and the spiritual energy was thin. When Lu Chen arrived, Lan Ruoxue was already standing there, her white robes fluttering in the wind. Xiao Feng stood half a step behind her, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Lu Chen walked forward and stopped at the proper ceremonial distance. "Fairy Lan," he said, clasping his hands, his voice calm. Lan Ruoxue looked at him. This time, the curiosity in her eyes was no longer hidden. "We finally meet again," she said, "Wanderer, or should I call you something else?" Lu Chen smiled. "You may call me whatever you like. I am used to it." Xiao Feng frowned. "You are very calm." "Because I did not come here to beg," Lu Chen replied. Lan Ruoxue took one step forward, her gaze sharpening. "You have done many things behind my back." "No," Lu Chen corrected her, "I simply did not stand in front of you." "What is the difference?" "The difference," he said, "is that if I had stood in front of you, you would not have looked at me." The atmosphere shifted slightly. Lan Ruoxue smiled faintly. "You think you are that important?" Lu Chen looked straight at her. "No, I think what I have done is important." Xiao Feng said through gritted teeth, "You are dividing the righteous path." Lu Chen turned to him. "No, I am only asking the questions that all of you have been avoiding." A silence stretched between them. The wind passed through, carrying with it a faint chill. At last, Lan Ruoxue spoke again. Her voice was no longer soft. "What do you want?" Lu Chen answered immediately. "I want you to stop." "Stop what?" "Stop pushing every price that must be paid onto someone else," he said slowly, "because this time, that someone else will no longer accept it." Lan Ruoxue's gaze darkened for a very brief moment. Then she smiled. "You think you are the judge?" Lu Chen shook his head. "I am the one reminding you that judgment is coming." Part 2. When faith begins to crack. The meeting in the neutral territory ended in a silence that lasted longer than any words. Lan Ruoxue left first, without looking back. Her white robes swept through the mountain wind like a streak of cold light. Xiao Feng followed behind her, his footsteps heavy, no longer as firm and decisive as usual. Lu Chen remained standing there alone for a while longer, letting the wind brush against his sleeves and allowing the echo of that gaze to settle. He knew that from the moment Lan Ruoxue asked, "What do you want?" everything had changed. That was no longer the question of someone being disturbed. It was the question of someone who had finally recognized an opponent. On the way back to the righteous path, Xiao Feng said nothing. Lan Ruoxue did not speak either. The silence between them was not happening for the first time, but this time, it carried weight. When they passed through a narrow bend, Xiao Feng finally stopped. His voice was low and hoarse. "He is not like the others." Lan Ruoxue did not turn around. She answered very softly. "Are you praising him?" "No," Xiao Feng said. "I am saying I do not understand him." Lan Ruoxue smiled. It was the familiar smile, but the depths of her eyes had already turned cold. Not understanding him is what makes him dangerous. Those who are easy to understand are easy to deal with. Xiao Feng fell silent. He remembered Lu Chen's eyes when he said, "I did not come here to beg." He remembered that calmness, which did not seem like an act. A strange discomfort crept into his chest, unclear whether it was unease or offense. After returning to the righteous path, Lan Ruoxue was immediately called into a private discussion. It was not an interrogation. Nor was it a reprimand. It was called an exchange of information. Soft words were always used when people were not yet willing to damage an image. An elder stroked his beard and said slowly, "Ruoxue, what do you think of that person?" Lan Ruoxue lowered her head. "This disciple believes he is full of schemes, but he does not yet have enough strength." Another elder asked, "Are you certain?" Lan Ruoxue raised her head, her gaze clear and pure. If he truly had enough strength, he would not need to stand behind Mo Bingyao. It was a reasonable answer. Even a clever one. But it was precisely that reasonableness that caused several gazes to darken slightly. Someone said in a low voice, "Standing behind someone is also a kind of strength." Lan Ruoxue smiled. She did not refute it. She only said, "No matter what, he has already revealed himself." Back in the demonic sect, Lu Chen returned without being welcomed by praise or ceremony. He was only summoned into a meeting smaller than usual. Mo Bingyao did not ask about the details of the meeting. She only asked one question. "What do you think of her?" Lu Chen thought for a moment, then replied, "She has confirmed that I am a threat, but she has not yet decided how to kill me." Linger frowned. "And Xiao Feng?" "He has begun to doubt," Lu Chen said, "but he does not yet dare to turn against her." Mo Bingyao nodded. "That is enough. Doubt is the first step toward betrayal." That night, within the righteous path, Xiao Feng did not return to his room to rest. He walked along the stone corridor and stopped before the archive hall, where old records were stored. He stood in front of the door for a long time, his hand resting on the sealing rune, then pulled it back. "What am I doing?" he asked himself. But in the end, he still opened the door. Old records about past secret realms, about incidents that had once been concluded with the words, "unexpected accident," gradually appeared before his eyes. Xiao Feng was not looking for evidence against Lan Ruoxue. He was only reading. And the more he read, the heavier his heart became. One page recorded the death of a disciple who had acted on his own. Another page spoke of an elder who had been transferred after a moment of carelessness. Different names. Different circumstances. But the way they ended was disturbingly similar. Xiao Feng closed the book, his heart pounding hard. He remembered what Lu Chen had said. I am only asking the questions that all of you have been avoiding. At that time, the words had sounded harsh. Now, he was beginning to realize they were difficult to avoid. The next morning, Lan Ruoxue came to see Xiao Feng. She brought tea with her. As usual. You look tired, she said. Xiao Feng looked at her, his gaze complicated. I did not sleep. Because of what happened yesterday, she asked, her voice filled with concern. Xiao Feng nodded lightly. Lan Ruoxue set the cup of tea down and said softly, You do not need to pay attention to him. That man is good with words. But words cannot change the greater situation. Xiao Feng looked at her. What if the greater situation is wrong? The question slipped out faster than he expected. Lan Ruoxue paused for exactly one brief moment. Very brief. But Xiao Feng saw it. The greater situation, she said, her voice becoming gentle again, is what protects us. Xiao Feng did not answer. Inside his heart, a dangerous thought had just begun to ignite. Or perhaps, the greater situation was protecting someone else. Back in the demonic sect, Lu Chen did not sleep either. He sat before the map, drawing no new lines, only staring at the ones already there. Xiao Feng will be the breaking point, Linger said softly. Lu Chen shook his head. No, he is the connecting thread. If he breaks now, the righteous path will only tighten around itself. Then what are you waiting for? For him to ask himself the question a second time, Lu Chen replied, The first time is curiosity. The second time is a choice. The next day, a small piece of news spread. A disciple who had once been close to Lan Ruoxue was being transferred far away for a long-term mission. No one called it punishment, but everyone understood. When Xiao Feng heard the news, his heart sank. Before that disciple left, Xiao Feng went to see him. Senior brother, the disciple forced a smile. I am fine. Xiao Feng asked, Do you know why you are being transferred? The disciple shook his head, then nodded again. Perhaps, because I know too much. Those words were like a cut from a blade. When Xiao Feng turned back, he knew that the second question had arrived. Lan Ruoxue also noticed the change in Xiao Feng. She did not blame him. She did not force him. She only observed quietly. In her heart, another plan was beginning to take shape, one no longer aimed at public opinion, but at people themselves. If he wavers, she thought, then I must give him a reason to stay. And that reason was often called blood. Back in the demonic sect, Mo Bingyao looked at Lu Chen and asked very slowly, Are you afraid? Lu Chen answered immediately. Yes. What are you afraid of? I am afraid she will act too soon, he said, while Xiao Feng is not yet firm enough. Mo Bingyao nodded. Then we must make her believe that the time has not yet come. Lu Chen looked at her, his eyes lighting up. I already have a way. Far away, Lan Ruoxue stood before a mirror, adjusting the white silk ribbon in her hair. The smile reflected in the mirror was still flawless. But beneath that flawless surface, a decision had already been made. If the backing had revealed itself, then it had to be cut down before it could take root. Parts 1 and 2 of Chapter 3 come to an end here. Thank you for staying with the story until this moment. Goodbye for now, and we'll meet again in the next parts of the tale, where the game between light and shadow will only grow more dangerous. And every move may change fate itself.